Welcome to If They Won't Listens, episode 26, featuring Wild Nights with Rocky. How's it going?
It's going really, really well. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
What's going on, Spencer? What's going on with you?
Well, what's going on, guys? Nothing much. Just having an interesting week, and just keeping myself busy in front of the television screen. How about you guys and ladies?
Topher? Or Rocky, by all means.
I was just gonna say, yeah, a lot of TV. I was watching SNL last night. That's really good lately. They've been doing some good episodes.
Yeah, this season's really been a huge hit.
Mhm.
The writing staff seems to have really improved from previous season before then.
I haven't watched SNL since, and I remember the exact episode. The episode, you could Google it and find out that I'm on a Boat was released. The song by Lonely Island. I remember I was at my cousin's house and it was a holiday of some sort. And we were all having turkey and his dad loved NASCAR and it came on SNL. And I didn't typically watch it, but I'll never forget seeing that song on SNL and all the skits they did. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So it's still going on like that. Has to be on a long time now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, I think SNL's on for 45 years.
2 decades older than me almost. That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to watch it when I was a kid with my father. That's
who was in the cast that
years ago. Oh, that was back in the old days. We're talking Gilda Radner, John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd. Yeah, way back when.
So the OG cast.
Yeah.
I recognize 2 out of 3 of those, John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. Those are both great actors. Dan Aykroyd in The Great Outdoors. That was, dude, him going after bats with tennis rackets with John Candy. That was fucking hilarious.
That was good.
What
you ever
was
see Neighbors?
Neighbors?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a
Seth Rogen, right?
No, there's another movie called
no.
Neighbors with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, and they do a role reverse where it's Dan Aykroyd is the wacky one, and then John Belushi's the conservative one, like the straight-laced guy, and it's hysterical to see them just switch it off.
My dad talks about that movie so often, and I saw him for his birthday in January, and the only thing he was like, I just want to end the day watching Neighbors. And so I'm like, well, Dad, it's not like we have literally every streaming platform at my parents' house. They had everything. I'm like, it's not streaming. And he's like, that's the only thing I want to watch for my birthday. So I ended up, before I left, I ended up renting it for him. And he's like, you got it for 48 hours. Did you watch it? I'm like, no, I haven't watched it, but I should, because now you're saying it too.
Yeah, no, it's like one of those odd films that just bombed at the box office,
Mm-hmm.
but like, it needed some time and legs, and now it's like kind of reviewed as like, a gem of its time.
Mm.
I don't know if I can compete with many old movies, but when I try to think of an old movie when I watched when I was a kid, my dad had me watch the original Red Dawn at like 6. With Charlie Sheen, and that was an amazing movie. And I saw the remake of it a few years ago, and that was, did you guys see either of those?
No.
Oh my God, that's, I don't know if either of them are worth a watch. It's personally, they're not like, oh my God, let me show Sarah this. It's amazing. But they're like, the first one was a 4-hour movie, and it was fucking 30 years ago or something. So to see like warfare go down, it was like another country invaded America in the movie, and so it was really controversial in its time. And when I was a kid, I didn't know that. I just remembered Charlie Sheen.
Right.
Red Dawn, that was the whole communist thing back in the 80s and 90s when Russia was the big threat.
Yeah, I wasn't even alive then, but that makes sense. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was Russia invading, and the movie starts with the kids in a school, and fucking planes go over above, and everyone's kind of looking outside because there's so much noise, and then parachutes drop, and they invade like Chicago or something, New York or some. I think it was maybe it was New York. It was neighboring like some great outdoors forest and shit.
Oh, yeah, that sounds heavy.
It was, and the whole movie's about like the whole movie is about like 20 kids fighting as this group called, they name themselves the Wolverines, and it's like the small group of in the woods people attack an entire militia and military, like just knocking them out. They were doing
It's
the
wild.
old, yeah,
pretty badass.
It was nasty, and I won't spoil anything. But the remake, not that you guys would watch it. The remake had a crazy controversy to it. Like imagine a iconic movie you've seen in your life, and they just like they play the whole movie in the remake, and then they add more. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna say what it was because it's a big thing, but it was a really good movie nonetheless.
Got it.
But what movies have you guys seen lately that are really good? That's came out. We just touched on some really old movies. I've killed like every horror movie that's on Netflix. I grew up not watching them because I was a giant baby. And
How do you feel about their collection?
Netflix?
Yeah, Netflix collection of horror.
I mean, I haven't seen many horror movies, so to me it's very interesting. But
Hulu's got a bunch of originals that are pretty damn good.
Really?
Yeah, some of them are really. I don't think they're making them anymore. It was the After Dark series, I think.
Huh.
But there's a whole bunch of them. They made one a month for like 2 or 3 years. Each one attached to a certain like event or holiday or something. Like there was a Christmas one and there's a Valentine's Day one, but twisted, way twisted.
What do you guys consider horror? Like, is it Paranormal Activity, like cameras and 75% of build and then
you're
boom?
talking about getting into subgenres now, because horror encompasses pretty much everything from that to the old campy slasher films that I grew up watching, like Friday the 13th, even like Nightmare on Elm Street. Those were, you watch them today, they're kind of corny and kind of campy, and the special effects weren't that great, but it was the 80s and early 90s. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, they just keep getting better. I like anything where a family or a group of friends has to flee and work together, or like when the killer's in the house, like the calls coming from inside the house. I like those kind of horror movies because, the zombie stuff, obviously that's really good, like Walking Dead, things like that. Those are all good, but just anything that makes you feel like, oh, we were having like a party or we were having a fun night and shit just got real.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I'm really into thrillers. Like growing up, one of my favorite movies, I don't know if you can call it a horror movie, but Phone Booth, that movie about the sniper dude.
Yeah,
Like that was so real to me because I grew up in the city and I didn't use payphones because like even as a kid I had a cell phone, but I've seen them. And ever since I saw that movie, I was like, you can go fuck yourself. I'm not getting in a phone booth ever. All done. And like that was is that horror or is that just super thriller?
Maybe thriller.
Yeah, I go thriller.
Okay.
I think thrillers are really interesting, just like all day. They're like, I like how they have the same beat as a horror, where they play on the suspense and like the idea of trying to scare you to a certain level. But I really like how it's a little bit more classy than a horror. Like for instance, like Basic Instinct is like something that comes to mind as like a solid like thriller film, because like the whole time it's just like, who is the killer really? And you just keep pondering it, and as you're pondering it, you're just like, oh well, like you keep getting distracted by all this like ideas and ideologies and like relationships and stuff like that, and like fucking Michael Douglas ass. I mean, it's gorgeous.
The ass alone should have won an Oscar.
Yeah, she should have.
When I think about crazy twists, have you?
She was on fire in that movie all day.
You guys ever seen Wild Things?
Yeah, with Nev Campbell.
Yeah, dude, my dad had me watch that at a young age too. That movie, that is probably to date, if someone asked me the craziest like thriller with a twist, that movie had like 3 crank 90-degree twists in it.
Yeah,
it's like you got an hour and a half.
Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Bill Murray's in that movie?
Yeah.
He is? Oh my God. One time I was out, I was like fighting, me and my ex-boyfriend were like so hungry and we were walking around Manhattan and we couldn't agree on somewhere to eat or get drinks or something. And we just end up walking in this tiny, small French bistro. And it's probably got like 10 tables in it. It's packed to the max with balloons and everyone's celebrating. We're like, oh, what's the, reason? Why is everybody packed in here like on a Monday night? and they're like, we're celebrating Beaujolais Nouveau, which was some it was just some red wine that comes out every November that's French. And so we're like, okay, well, let's party then. So we order a bottle, they sell us a bottle, we get like great food. And then all of a sudden in this tight little bar, we look up and Bill Murray walked in. And he walked in, he's got this like tiny, like hot little blonde with him, and him and her, and he looked old as dirt. And the two of them went, he really looked old. And so he looked cool and like smooth. And him and the girl went and, chilled in the corner, and he just walked in this bar that I was in.
That's hilarious.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Were you in Soho at that time?
No, I was in the Village. I was close, but I was in the Village. Yeah. It was like,
because it sounds like it could be one of the two areas.
Yeah, it was by Christopher Street.
Oh,
the
nice.
bar's moved. The bar was called Vin Servant, but it's moved like 3 locations since then. But yeah.
Word.
It's crazy.
That is insane. Running into celebrities has to be like a pretty big thing. I remember going to a restaurant in Manchester, New Hampshire, and they had like, it was this tiny little place. Like, honestly, if you blinked, you would have missed it. But on the wall, they had pictures of like Adam Sandler and like John Travolta. And those are only 2 names that like hit me because they had their picture very big above the bar. But it was like, I swear to God, like with COVID restrictions, that you couldn't even fit 15 people in the place. Like it was so small, and they were just like one of those places that had a master chef, and he wanted to work with family. And so it was his wife and his kids and everybody. Yeah, it was super cool. I grew up in restaurants, so I've met a lot of different types, and some of them are, What position did you work in?
I was a cocktail waitress from the time I was 22 when I moved to the city. I was a cocktail waitress for 2 years. Then I became a waitress, and that was in Times Square. And then I was a waitress in a brewery, like a couple blocks away. And I ended up staying with that brewery family for like quite a few years, and working in Times Square. And I actually ended up working in Guy Fieri's restaurant from open to close.
What was that like? I heard a lot of stories about that one.
I can clear up any rumors because I was there from before that restaurant opened till the day it closed.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I didn't know he had a restaurant at all. And my grandparents grew up watching him. So like, while I was washing dishes, before I had ever been garde or, a sous chef of any kind, they were watching it on TV, and I was always watching. It was so cool. But so he had a restaurant in New York. Yeah,
it was called Guy's American Kitchen and Bar. And it was crazy. No, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just curious, based on like the way you said that. So like there was some controversy and it closed down like kind of fast.
No, I mean, it was there for 5.5 years. So for a restaurant that's kind of a little overpriced for burgers in the heart of Times Square when you can eat anywhere, it had a really good run. But
it was overpriced for burgers in Times Square is the Hard Rock. Amazing food. Amazing. I've been there a couple of times, but it's way overpriced.
Yeah, that Planet Hollywood, like all those places, you're going to pay $20 just to get a burger. But yeah, it was. I met him a bunch of times.
Like
very, the clientele varies. So it mainly depends on the hour of the day, right? You start off a lunch shift, you've got all the Viacom guys in the area that are working by MTV, like they're coming in their suits for lunch, and anybody who's having like a quick hour, whatever, a drink at lunch or whatever, that's the kind of crowd you get. They want to be served, they want to be left alone, and then they want their check quickly. Then you have the pre-Broadway crowd.
Interesting. What time's that? Like 3:34?
It's usually matinees are 2, and then the shows are 7, 7:30 or 8, but they come in always with 45 minutes, never like early, to sit and relax and enjoy their meal. And they're like, okay, our show's in 45 minutes. Okay, well, that's not my problem. Like you should have come earlier. You want a well-done burger and you're coming 45 minutes ahead of time. But you still
asked
have
for shoe leather.
Yeah. So, and then the clientele after that were a lot of like, after the Broadway shows start, would be a lot of the European crowd, because they eat dinner a little bit later. So they would come in at 8:30, and it would be a hit hit and miss with the tips, but they were usually much nicer to wait on than Americans. Americans tend to be a little bit more entitled, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But Europeans don't tip as well as Americans, so it's a whole, you know,
They probably pay
people
their
suck,
wait staff better
you know?
there.
Yeah, that they do. They pay them a living wage.
Oh, so Europe's not, or at least parts of the EU are not gratuity based like America?
I think most of them aren't.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
no, we're probably the only one, or like 4, maybe 5 countries, because
That's insane.
we do shit
Yeah.
kind of stupid like that.
I love working at
I
restaurants.
mean, and I get it, because to a point, you know, to be a good waiter or waitress, you actually need to have skills, and the better your tips, the better your skills. So they figure, all right, this is that kind of a job. It's skill based. Here you go. You're going to get paid depending on your
X
skill
amount,
level.
yeah.
A lot of places don't do that. They don't pay you according to your skill level. You get kind of screwed one way or the other, or you know, you have some people that get overpaid because they really don't do much, and you have other people that get underpaid because they're doing a shitload more than everybody else, picking up the slack, but nobody really
Yeah, and
seems
like
to
a
care.
pool and a tipped, like a pooled tipped house. Yeah, unfortunately, guys, wasn't like that because there was a lot of bad waiters there. But yeah, it was a wild place to work. I met Jimmy Fallon.
Nice.
I met Rosie O'Donnell, Joey
Wow.
Fatone.
Joey Fatone, man, take it to the Backstreet Boys. Jesus.
NSYNC. He's from NSYNC.
Oh my God. Well, it was one
Oh
of
my
them.
God.
Like I could have said
almost
a
jumped
worse
through the
band.
computer.
I'm sorry. I didn't even listen to
They're
their
mortal
music.
enemies.
They were like they're mortal enemies. Are they really? Is that like two things?
Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. They came
Rivals.
up together and they were the
at that
rivals. Yeah.
time.
Wow. Yeah, I don't
You
know.
were either Backstreet Boys or NSYNC.
I was born in 94, so like by the time I was choosing my own music, God, it was like past
Okay.
2005
So
probably.
what year was this?
That what?
Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. That was like early 90s, right?
They came out about 97, 96,
Okay,
97.
so
They started to hit the scene.
mid-90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was straight up listening to metal at that point in time. I wasn't even anywhere near any boy bands.
I'm not gonna lie, in my mind, I don't kill me for this. I really think NSYNC and Backstreet Boys hold the same place. Like I might have not known there was a difference. And maybe that hurts me, but like
for those who didn't listen to that and still don't, you know, I mean, that's what it is. They were the same. They were the same type of music. They were the rivals.
Definitely
at
the
that
same
time.
type. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they were on the pop scene. They were the ones, all the teeny boppers were going.
What?
It was like whatever. Yeah, no,
Okay,
it's all good. It's what it is, you know. And don't get it wrong. I have moments like that now.
I've just never heard teeny bopper.
You never heard the phrase teeny bopper?
No, he just cracked my whip with that. I was like,
girls,
what
the
did
12,
he just
13,
fucking say?
14-year-old girls that flock to these concerts with the boy bands.
So the equivalent of Justin Bieber's fan base. 13-year-old girls who have $15 to waste.
Yes.
Yes.
Teeny boppers
they
do
would be.
that, and then like metal bands have groupies.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I just knew the difference between Backstreet Boys and NSYNC through like TRL.
Yes.
That was the only way I knew the two, and then I was like, got it. And I remember one time that Backstreet Boys were interviewed at TRL, and I think it was the blonde hair guy who said they couldn't wave
Nick Carter.
Nick Carter. Thank you. Nick Carter said that that all 5 of them could not wave out the window because they were afraid it would cause some kind of traffic delay at Times Square. And I was like, can you imagine being so fucking famous where you cannot wave out a window because you might obstruct traffic?
Yeah.
That's insane. It's incredible. And it just shows you how like wild the not like late 90s were too, because it was all bottling up to that time where it was like you had 2 amazing albums come out at that time from each band.
Yeah.
And TRL was the thing. I mean, I watched TRL. I was talking about it. Yeah, I watched it from the time I was in 4th grade till I was 19. I went there for the first time, like in the studio when I was 19. It's like,
oh, that's awesome.
That was
People
the
used to
show.
hang out in the street and on the sidewalk and fuck traffic up just to be able to wave and go, oh, look at me, look at me, look at me.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah.
Why not?
I never watched TRL a day in my life. I think.
Oh man,
I
that's
think
like
the-
a rite of passage right there.
I think
It
the
was like
only.
watching Dick Clark pass on the baton to
Ryan
Carson-
Seacrest.
No, Carson Daly.
Did he? Oh, I thought it was. I
Well,
thought.
I meant like through like because he had American Bandstand, Dick Clark.
Oh,
And it kind of felt like TRL turned into the new American Bandstand.
that's a great point. I thought you were talking about New Year's Rockin' Eve.
Oh no. Ryan
That's
I was
not
going with
Carson
that.
Daly.
I used to sit as a kid every Saturday and listen to AT40, and I remember when it was Casey Kasem, and then he turned over to Shadow
Yeah.
Stevens, and I don't even know what went to from there. But at that point, I stopped listening to popular music anyway. So
Casey Kasem was that one voice in
he was the
Scooby-Doo.
voice of Shaggy
Shaggy. That's right.
What?
in the original
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo cartoons. Listen to
Yeah.
it. Casey Kasem was Shaggy.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't see it because I have a hat on, but my mind is blown. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
the dots just connected, didn't they?
I just didn't know that Casey Kasem was Shaggy. I learned
Yeah.
something else about Shaggy this week.
Oh, what else?
He's a
I don't
stoner.
remember what it was. No, I knew that. Takes one to know one. I learned.
I like it. Can we keep her?
I learned that Shaggy's first name is something.
Ooh.
I don't remember what it was,
Oh,
but he has a first
yeah.
name. That's not
Yeah.
Shaggy.
yeah, no, his name isn't Shaggy. It's
Theodore.
I cannot remember.
I have no
I'm gonna
idea.
look that up because I cannot remember.
So I'm
I
getting all my
always had a
Shaggy
huge-
facts.
I always had a huge crush on Velma as a kid.
Right?
Because of her, I ended up liking Orange a lot, and that's how like if you asked me who
Norville.
my favorite like Ninja Turtle was, it
Norville.
would have been Michelangelo. Just because
Norville
he was back
Rogers.
there.
With Velma, I think they're giving her her own show.
About time. That woman deserves some respect,
Right?
Yeah.
right?
No, I love Scooby Doo.
I
I,
don't know
grew
if
up
she's
watching
good
Scooby Doo.
for her own show.
Why
She was
not?
good at eye candy back in the day.
Dude, she was the one who was solving those puzzles and mysteries.
Oh, she's big brain. You know, that's part of the attraction. Honestly, I've always been, I couldn't date somebody, and this is gonna sound fucking horrible. I can't date somebody dumb. I just can't. You gotta have half a brain. If I can't carry on an intelligent conversation with you, and this is gonna be absolutely horrible, because I'm sure these guys have heard this, but I lived in the Carolinas for a minute, and it's not that the people there are dumb, because they're not. Absolutely not. The standard of education has been lower there because culturally for so long they had to have all hands on deck to tend the fields to survive. So they didn't put nearly as much emphasis on education as we did up in the Northeast. So they're not dumb by any means. Because I'm from the Northeast, and because I can use a few $64 words a lot of times in order to get a really intelligent conversation, I had to go to GameStop.
To work there or buy stock in it?
To just go hang out. I would go looking at games just for the purpose of going and having somebody to talk to that was somewhere on my level. And again, it wasn't dumb. It was more like on my level, because
Was
it
there a
was whole
library you
cultural
could go
thing.
to?
I don't know.
There
I
might have
was
been some.
working way too much to even figure out where a library was. And at this point, are there any? There's a few libraries left, but does anybody even go there anymore?
My
Okay.
library's digital.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying.
First question, Topher.
Uh-oh.
So you said eye candy. Are you referring to a live action or a cartoon? Because if you're saying
Cartoon.
if you just, I feel so
Back in the
bad
day,
for you,
I'm
bro.
with Spencer.
feel
I had a
so
crush
bad
on
for you.
Velma back in the day, and I've been watching. Well, Scooby-Doo cartoons have been around since before I was born, and I've been watching them as long as I can remember. I loved Scooby-Doo. That was one of my absolute all-time favorite things to watch as a kid.
No, I love it too.
I had
I
a
could
crush
take a
on
hike
Velma
there.
at that point. I liked Velma, and I like redheads, but I liked Velma much more than I liked Daphne. I couldn't stand Daphne. Even then, I knew, blonde bimbo was blonde bimbo. I don't care what color you dye your hair.
No, I
I
get
got
that.
nothing against Daphne. I thought
Me
Daphne
neither.
was a fine lady.
No,
It
I
was
like
just
both.
that Velma had that really awesome outfit on. And don't get me wrong, Daphne looked great in purple and everything. I love the handkerchief and all. but there was something about the turtleneck. I think I got a real thing.
You had a thing
turtleneck.
for Fred too,
It's
didn't
like
you?
that
That
floating
ascot.
head syndrome. I just like can't get enough of it.
I honestly felt like they were a really well-balanced group. Call me controversial. I thought
I-
they were a well-balanced group.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I understand being like some people have dated a few quote unquote hot chicks and got that, you know, as you referred to it, blonde bimbo. But so I get that you can be anti that and you know
Trophy
you
wife.
want the intelligence, you know what I mean?
But intelligence fades.
Oh, the
Especially when
only
you get
thing I was
Alzheimer's.
thinking was like my first version of cartoons, like I was almost out of the gate. Like the first cartoons I really started watching were anime. I was really late to cartoons. Like I guess Scooby-Doo counts and I watched that my whole childhood, but I really didn't get into anything else. Like I saw SpongeBob a lot, but my dad hated cartoons. So it wasn't, that was not applicable in my childhood that much. Scooby-Doo was okay because he liked that, but just really funny comparing Velma on a cartoon that had to be before I was born to like the anime I can watch. Like that's just crazy.
When I
Ever
was
watch Big Mouth?
Yep. Yeah, I
Mhm.
definitely didn't get far into it, but it was fucking hilarious. And
It's
like
really funny.
I didn't need acid to enjoy that. That was just, it would have been too much. Like LSD would
We
have been
haven't gotten to
too
the
much.
later season or seasons. Watched the first couple and then waiting for the next one and drifting into something else and never got back to it. But that was fucking hilarious. It's like Brickleberry or Paradise PD or something like that.
I watched Brickleberry, man, and I almost would fuck Daniel Tosh. I love him so much. and literally like I just didn't like Brickleberry. Like at first I
neither.
was so head over heels just because it was, Daniel Tosh was part of the production and it was his show technically. But once I got into it, I watched like I committed to all the episodes that were out when I first watched it. And then was like, all right, this doesn't deserve a rewatch. And if more comes out, I'll just go watch fucking Tosh.0. I'll just skip this. So I don't know. That one lost me. It had moments, but I don't know. I feel like there was a writing crew.
Can I ask you a question? Did you say you needed acid to watch Big Mouth? Do you usually take acid before you watch cartoons?
I
Zero
take that.
judgment.
No. So out of our 5 topics we had on this wheel I made, one of them was psychedelics. Like there's a brand new book out by Carl Hart. He was a guest on Joe Rogan. It's called Drug Use for Adults. And he has a doctorate and he has a medical degree and understanding in the use of psychedelics to better the brain. They actually believe that like psilocybin and LSD to some degree, specifically psilocybin, like mushrooms, can rewire parts of your brain that like CTE causes. You get hit too hard in the head, your brain starts losing its, you know what I mean? That's what causes, onset symptoms at like 70, Alzheimer's and dementia and stuff. They believe that if you were to microdose with psilocybin, you could repair it. And he even goes further to say that microdosing stuff like heroin could be helpful if not overused. And you can imagine how controversial that is.
Yeah.
He's like 20 years into medicine. He's not
trying. You can't, unfortunately, you can't really microdose something like heroin because that's something that you get a microdose of it and then have no more in your system. It immediately makes you sick.
Well, yeah, and the problem is that it's a barbiturate, and it's one of the 2 things like alcohol and opiates that if you get off them cold turkey when you're super addicted, you die. Cigarettes, it's painful. Cocaine, it's irritating, but barbiturates kill you. And so like
cigarettes is more the habitual thing than anything else.
They're still hard as fuck to quit, bro. I smoked for 11 years.
I did it twice, brother. You're preaching to the choir. I get it completely. But because I've done it twice, I know for a fact that it's more mental than anything else. But yes, it is just as hard.
Everything you said about psilocybin, 100% true. Like I fully believe that psilocybin can save the world. People just have put such a stigma on it, but honestly, like the core. All right, since we're like get into it, psychedelics. I will say this: the core of any mushroom trip that goes well, what's the one feeling you feel while like you're at peaking, you're like feeling it so hard? What's the feeling that you feel?
Like just euphoric in any sense,
and love, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't want to hurt anyone.
It's all love. And then you come out of it and you're a little more empathetic, a little more kind, a little more thoughtful. I always feel like every time I've had a really great mushroom trip, I always drink a little less alcohol moving forward. Like alcohol becomes more recreational less often for me. And I love to party, and that I find I need less of it. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of psilocybin saving the world.
No, it's yeah, go for it, Topher.
No, I was saying I haven't tripped in 15 years.
Well, we might be able to remedy that, unquote.
Cool. The last time I did, it was snowing I was living in Missouri, and it was snowing. It was really cool. I wasn't driving. My roommate was, and he wasn't tripping, but it was like Star Wars, hitting light speed, running through the snowstorm. That was pretty cool.
No, dude, it truly is. The crazy thing about it.
Great way to put it, actually, Topher. I see what you're saying. Like, I had like a couple experiences in snow, and the way you're describing that hyperspeed is I fucking dig that, man. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Richard. No. Please go ahead with your words of beautiful wisdom.
Thank you. You are so kind. But no, it's give and take with 4 people here. I mean, you don't want to walk on other people, but there's a little give and take. It's all good. And I always talk too much, so at all times, if we talk at the same time, y'all always go. But no, it's the craziest thing I think is that our brains are really shitty at remembering things in general. And so sometimes you try to remember something you can't. Sometimes you don't want to remember it, and you start dancing to like a song. And you're like, I fucking hate this song. And I was tapping in the car earlier to a song I swore I hated. But like I kept my memories from something I couldn't see. And, Spencer's touched on some crazy like 4th dimension stuff. And I've heard some crazy theories like, you can't see that stuff without taking it. And once you take it, it takes a long time to kick in, and most people like 30 minutes in are like, this shit ain't even gonna work based on past experience. And then a little bit later it's like, oh my god. And I don't know, you come out of it so much better. It truly is. I mean, I overuse it, so when I do it like quarterly. Like I'll do it a massive amount once, and then I won't do it for a long time. But
what's a long time?
Like if I wanted to like have an experience that honestly would really change me, it'd probably be like a 5G trip, and I would probably do it like at most once every 3 months for legitimacy reasons.
What's a 5G trip?
Like 5 grams of mushrooms at one time.
Oh
yeah, so not like micro, like the walls are melting, you weigh 4,000 pounds, and you start
how much is an eighth?
3.5.
So how many eighths would that be?
The 1.4, like nothing. It's 1.5 grams more than what you had. So
okay,
yeah,
you use big daddy lingo. I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. That sounds like a whole forest of mushrooms.
And so like when I did it, I would do 5 grams, but not to mention that I would do no stems, all caps, like 5 grams of and that's just retarded, because you can do a gram of just the top of the mushroom, which is the stronger part, and that's done. A gram of tops is stupid. So like after all my research, doing any more than 5, you might be able to break your brain. Like literally you're going to come out of it not beneficial. Like you have crossed some lines, and you're not going to come back from it. And
like a little psychosis maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, what happened?
I was psychotic before I took it. If anything, it helped me manage my psychosis.
Yeah.
It's like ever since I was a kid, I always looked at my abilities and my traits, because I grew up in a quote unquote like abuse situation. So I don't know, I just adapted to situations faster than I, at a younger age than I should have, perhaps. I would call myself smart, but adapting to someone doing something to you is a lot easier than learning to do something due to your own nature.
Right. And faster than your development probably allows it to be concrete in you. You're kind of like, oh, okay, I guess this is a part of me now, gotta take it. So it's almost heavier because no,
I was kind of like my own adult at like 15, with a backpack and my own skills. And at the time that was like the biggest punishment, and as a 26-year-old now, fast forwarding, whatever, to fucking 12 years, that was the biggest gift I know people who have millions of dollars and they don't like they have 8 silver spoons, and that's good for them, but they've never learned the true thing in their life. And it's like
Right.
there's nothing wrong with that either. I'm not, like to some degree they're even happy, but there's a heavy correlation to overstimulation if you have too much money, and then your dopamine stops hitting. If you can buy anything, you know what I mean? Where are you going to get your happiness from at a certain point? And there's a heavy correlation to that. Like, I'm a musician and I used to be an addict, so I'm heavily worried that if I'm successful in my future, because I've been a musician for like 15 years, writing and
Right.
working and learning, but I'm not public at all. So someday I'm
Okay.
going to push a button, and when I can divulge full time to it, 40
But
hours
it
a
has
week.
to be when you're ready.
Yeah, exactly. And I took kind of Jay-Z's approach with that. When he was a teenager, he could have been rapping and all his friends were. And when I was, all my friends were. But
Right.
he was like, I kind of want to wait. And, he heard at a young age that at about 27, your mind is fully matured. And I heard that too. And I was like, that kind of makes sense. Okay, I'm good now. But what would 10 years more be? If this is good and if I try hard, 10 years more would unequivocally be better. And I still believe that true. And truly, it's like a 4 or 5 year shelf life. You know what I mean? Like, some people get lucky and they're musicians for a long time.
Yeah.
But I mean, my favorite musician my whole life was Lil Wayne, because I had
Yeah.
I had like a life or death experience, and he was my,
Because of you mean your life and death experience, you kind of related because he had his life and death experience, right? When the officer saved him.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically the exact same as that, and I love that
Wow.
fucking story. But mine was heavily personal. I was trying to do something self to me, and the music was on in the background, and I was like,
His
like,
music.
yeah, and I was like, I'd never be able to listen to him again. Like, fuck this. And like, ever since then, music has like been number one. And it's like, I even struggled to like find heavy love for my daughter after she was born, because music saves my life every day. If you took my music, you can take my wrist of my dominant hand before you take my hearing. Like, music is super important to me. And so it, for like 6 months, it was really hard. And like in a argument in a heavy way, it still didn't feel like being a dad was more prevalent than being a musician. And it's like, it's heavy on my heart, and still to this day it's hard to think about it rationally. Like, what's more important, me being able to wake up every day and breathe and continue, or me having full love for my daughter and not thinking about myself? Because I don't have time to do both, and I struggle every day to do that, to give her all.
Parenting is not a rational thing, brother.
You know
Nothing that involves the heart is rational.
it's just hard, and I'm super happy to be a dad, and I love my daughter more every day. She's super smart. She just turned 3 on Valentine's Day, so she's
That's so she's just little.
yeah, it's
Yeah, and he's in for the ride of his life now because she just turned 3.
Well, don't you think that you being able to say that you had to like struggle and overcome to tell yourself that, in comparison to your love for her and in comparison to the love for the music, wouldn't you say that that's like such a strong thing to be able to say out loud, free of judgment? And I don't know, that's really a powerful thing to have heard, because I bet you there are so many. It's so weird. There's so many people who are like each and every one of us all over the country. Don't you think that there are so many 26-year-old dads out there who have such a passion for music and may have the same struggle that you are having, but can't admit it out loud? And so maybe that resentment gets carried over into the way that they treat their daughter, or the way that they treat their partner, or the way that they treat, the person that's taking care of them at the supermarket, just because they, I don't want to say aren't brave enough to say what you said, but aren't comfortable admitting that they are a flawed human out loud. That's really powerful stuff that you said.
It was a very politically correct way to say that.
No, I appreciate it, and thank you, Rocky, and I don't know.
I mean it.
I appreciate it, and to me, no, it is a heavy thing. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if you've seen the TV show Shameless, but I swear to God,
Every episode.
It's my life. Abusive drunk dad, and fucking a mom walked out when I was 9 months old. Wow. Only child with 8 brothers and sisters.
Where did you fall in the 8?
7 don't know I exist, and 1 refuses to talk to me.
Gotcha.
There's also a ninth who I can't bring up because on the off chance one of my dad's friends heard this, it would be quite controversial.
Gotcha.
I'll call him an alcoholic and he can hear that because he is, but
Gotcha.
yeah, super details. But no, it's crazy. I'm an only child, but literally there's at least like I live less than 200 miles from the place where I know my mom lives. And there's 7 people who have my blood in them who I could come across because everyone
at any moment
and not even know that we share the same blood. And to me, that's, I've made funny jokes in a non sequitur way. Like, dude, I could sleep with my sister and not know it. Like, literally.
You wouldn't. And you know why? This is a thing I learned this past year. Somebody told me, and I thought this was really interesting and fucking amazing also, because our bodies really work in weird ways that we can't explain, especially people who are connected to psychedelics. I believe that their bodies work a little bit, when they find the balance, work a little bit better, bodies and minds. But anyways, the reason you probably wouldn't sleep with your sister, have you ever met somebody, and even if they're not like a bad, like they have bad hygiene, they could be a clean person. They could have just came out of the shower, but they don't smell right to you. They smell bad.
Mm-hmm.
We smell unattractive to people we're related to keep us from having sex with them. We get turned off by their pheromones. So if there's somebody who's like, it has nothing to do with body odor. If it's somebody who's just like a clean person and for some reason you're like, oof, there's something about their smell. I can't get behind it. You're probably related somewhere down the line.
That's fucking
How do you
nasty.
explain all those people who are into incest?
I would say mental illness, probably. No, I'm serious. I mean, that's
Yeah.
it's either mental illness or like rape and stuff. That's how I would explain it.
This is going to sound a little off for just a second, but
we've been there.
The butterfly effect.
Yeah, no, great.
Yeah.
That movie hurt me.
Okay. Was it the movie I was thinking of?
Ashton Kutcher, that crazy fucking movie where like you don't need acid to be so fucking confused.
No, that was Dude, Where's My Car?
All right, I had and I lost it again. Okay, the scene where he is talking to her in one of these new alternate realities and telling her all these reasons he knows who she is and knows her so well. She prefers the smell of skunk to flowers. Maybe they just prefer the smell of skunk to flowers and they don't know that they're, not supposed to be attracted to this person because of that.
Yeah, but to actually follow through with the act consensually, that's probably not super likely. I would probably say a lot of times incest is majority you're going to find is probably not consensual. It's probably someone, usually a man or an older woman with a younger boy abusing their position.
It's usually not, likely in the first place because there are so many people with so many bloodlines now. So the likelihood of, coming across each other like that isn't very good in the first place. But I've heard more than one story about people who have like almost or actually done it and then found out from somebody else, yeah, you're related. It went, oh, fuck.
What?
I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, this is definitely like as far as taboo subjects go, Twitter wouldn't last this video for about 4 seconds. But like, I'm not gonna lie, like it's super prevalent in like porn. Like I don't understand that. Like as much as I don't understand why a 20-year-old would sleep with someone who's an octogenarian.
What's an octogenarian?
It's the name for someone who's in their 80s. There's names for people. I learned this like last year. There's names for every decade. There's names for every decade.
What's someone in their 30s?
Tri or Trenta. Tri-genarian or Trenta-genarian. Trenta Spanish, I think. But it's
Trenta's 30 in Spanish.
Yeah, they're all based off prefixes from Latin. So it's like
octogenarian.
Octogenarian is 80. Septuagenarian is 70. Sextenarian, I don't know, the six ones are weird.
Sex, that's just everybody. We all like sex.
No, 60s are weird though. 60s, the prefix begins with sex because when you're talking in above trillions, the one when you get above centillion, which is 5, is sextillion, which is the one above it, and that's just fucking ridiculous. But and then you get septillion and octillion, but yeah, that prefixes aside, I was really happy to learn that there's names for fucking
That is interesting. Octogenarian. I can't wait to call my grandmother that. I'm like, Graham, you're such an octogenarian.
That's something. Someone
You're
like that
acting
would
like
say.
a real octogenarian. And anytime she complains about, like, she'll like make silly jokes about being old and stuff. Oh, I'm getting so old. I'll be like, stop being such an octogenarian. I'll be so impressed if she knows what that means.
There's the other part of that.
That would be really funny. Pardon me.
You have to keep us updated on that. I want to know how this one turns out.
Yeah, I know. I'll call her tomorrow.
That's crazy. But yeah, no, the only other thing I wanted to say with what I was saying, you know, I think the hardest thing for me to overcome, and the biggest thing that society's starting to overcome, was being able to talk about addiction. Like for me, talking about, you know, my problems in childhood were one thing, but we all have a shitty childhood, at least to some degree. None of us grew up in Syria, and none of us had to hunt for food with an AK. So
speak for yourself. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, I know, but
you're right.
But relatively speaking, we've all had our issues, and we've all had, you know, hard lives growing up.
Yeah, and that's how I like to see it. But you know, you always run into that one person who, you know, based on just interacting with them, like, you know, they haven't had to solve their own problems. And I think that's beautiful. I think the fact that we have such a strong country, and that someone can be ignorant for 80 years and pass away and never actually like wake up to what they had to do to survive, in quotes. Like I'm smart to some accord because I survived. But I know many people, my former who I grew up with, like at least 40 of the people of my 300 graduates died already. Like by my 10-year anniversary, if I get called to it, because I got my GED junior year, so I'm not sure if I will even get a call. But
maybe you'll get invited to both.
On the off chance I do, dude, there's already like, so what if, let's call it 300 people, 10% of 300 people is 30, so we're talking about like 33% of 13, thank you, sorry, that I fucked up really hard in the end there. 13% of my graduates died, and almost 100% of it was drugs. Like 12 of them were heroin, and one of them crashed his car on acid in front of the fire department in our town. Did acid with a bunch of people at college, all got through 5 hours of a trip, had the keys in a bowl, and then he asked for his keys to go home.
And they gave it to him.
And instead of someone breaking his nose and putting him in a bedroom, they gave him his keys, and he made it all the way to his hometown, less than a few miles from his house, and just fell asleep, drove off the road. And even worse, it was just sunlight. He hit a mailbox. It came through the windshield. It decapitated him. Mailbox landed in his lap. His head went into the back seat, and then he hit a house. The guy whose house he hit, across from the fire department, as he's calling 911, was making breakfast. You know, he made breakfast. Guy hit his house. He calls 911, looks and doesn't see anyone in the car. So he takes his time. He's like, oh, someone hit my house and ran away. Their car's here. I'll figure it out. No worries.
Doesn't realize,
Puts his clothes on, gets outside, and there's a headless person with a mailbox in his lap. That is just like, if I saw that, I honestly might never go back to work. Like, I mean, I've seen some fucked up shit in movies, and I lived in the projects. I've literally seen someone get shot, but like, that's so unpersonal. Like, that's just a hair trigger and physics to the maximum. It's unfortunate and it's deadly, but I'm not surprised. Like, when someone gets hit by a bullet, I'm never surprised the outcome is death. But like, to think of that, like,
can I ask you a question then? Just to go back to what you said about people that make it through life 80 years old, 90 years old, and never had anything horrible happen to them, right? Aren't even aware really that horrible things are happening because of the environment that they're in. And now you have this guy, both of these guys, really. You have the guy who lost his life tragically, and you have the lawn of the owner of the lawn in which this guy lost his life in, right?
Mm-hmm.
His life is forever changed. Both of their lives are forever changed, but one of them has to live with having seen this and gone through this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you think, in a spiritual kind of just, you know, reincarnation sense, do you think that the woman who we have in this fake scenario, who made her life, who I'm sure exists, whose life has been great, do you think that's like kind of a reincarnation of someone who just was so good in a past life that they now get to live on Earth and experience all of its goodness and all of its fun, and not have to experience real pain?
I mean,
I think that's like a karma thing.
I'd hope so. You know, I believe in reincarnation. Quite frankly, most of the stuff you can believe in is 50-50.
Yeah.
Like I don't believe in God, but that's 50-50. Like it's not 30% he's alive, 30% he's dead, and 30%, you know, he's my neighbor. It's 50% he exists and 50% he doesn't. Reality, 50% we're here, 50% we live in a lunchbox.
Yeah.
You know, so like there's so many things that like
we're a speck. Yeah.
you know, I understand why antidepressants are prescribed for some people. Like I read philosophy, and learning deeper things makes me intrigued, and I can cope with it. And understanding things are out of my control gives me
Yeah.
control. Like
Yeah.
the understanding the chaos is like, okay, there's a billion details I'll never learn. I have so many things I have to do, including build a structure to live, have a job, have a car, have a, you know, all the things that build a structure in a regular life. And you don't have time to think about all the other stuff, like a meteor hitting the planet, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just learned about on another podcast today that there's a fault like the San Andreas fault in where did he say? Kentucky, maybe? I don't know, but the Midwest, like northeast of Texas. Maybe it wasn't Kentucky. I forget where it was already. I feel so bad. But no joke, like that's crazy. Like
There's a fault line running through here somewhere. It's not a major one, but we've had earthquakes in Vermont.
God, that sounds terrible.
And actually, I just learned this the other day. Which one is it? I don't remember, but one of the major ski resorts, one of the major mountains, is actually either dead or dormant volcano.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't know. I think as a country, we're blessed, and maybe the blessing is a curse in some cases. Like I don't think ignorance is a gift, but I think it, you know, the people I meet who seem like they've never had to solve a thing, to me they don't seem perfectly happy. Like they you know, they have cynicism in them, and they're kind of, you know, inflammatory, and, you know, in your face, and like, oh, how dare you accuse me, or how dare you, you know what I mean, you get in my space, and like that their view of things is so non-teamwork based. It makes me think that, you know, if they're perfectly happy, maybe it's worth it. They're a dick to everyone because we all see it and go, thank God my daughter's not that way. But I, you know, I don't know. Like I always try to see the happy side of things. But if I were to try to see the negative side of things, I meet more of them than I meet of gracious, hold the door for me type of, you know, I'm from the city and now I live in the super sticks. And in the super sticks, like
What city? New York City?
Boston.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time in Roxbury and Jamaica Plains, and I was born in Haverhill, Massachusetts, and so you know, and Haverhill is right in the border of New Hampshire. So I got blessed. I got to work in Mass and make great pay and buy non-taxed items and food in New Hampshire. So I had zero sales tax on every item and every.
Oh yeah, no,
food,
I know. I'm from New England too originally, so.
Yeah, so it was a really cool existence. I got to hang out with, you know, part of what they consider the, you know, the sticks, and hang out with the skyscrapers, because Boston was only 45 minutes from my birth town. And so but yeah, during my journey living in Boston, like talk about perspective, you know what I mean? Like there was a part of my life when I didn't have shoelaces. Like I think about that sometimes when I'm at work and my feet hurt and I'm like, fuck, 3 more hours, man. What am I gonna do to keep my mind occupied? My AirPods died, and, you know, maybe I don't have service, or whatever the case. I'll just start thinking about like my worst moments in life. And I'll have 3 hours of thought of how crappy some other time was. And that will power me through a moment when otherwise maybe I would have been like, all right, I'm going to go to the bathroom and act like I got to take a crap for 30 minutes because my ankles kill. And otherwise I just, you know, stand there and, you know, now my job is production based. So the more I make, the more I get paid. And so there's even more incentive to just continue working. And, you know, it's like, oh, I hurt more. Well, I get paid more. Just keep fucking going and shut up, pussy. And, you know,
and also if this is just think however you want to think and get through your days, however you want to get through your days. I'm not saying you should do it this way, but just offering up a suggestion. What if instead of those, when you're like, I have 3 hours left, my feet are killing me, I hate this, instead of going back and being like, well, this really raw, horrible part of my life that I overcame because, you know, I'm strong enough to overcome it is way worse than where I am now. Instead of doing that, what if you were like, man, this job is affording me the opportunity because in the future I'll be able to like be just like locked in a room writing music for 12 hours instead of going back to the raw place. Why don't you put yourself in future places of positivity and like, you know, where your main focus is?
I put myself in future places of positivity, being the paycheck I'm going to get.
Any whatever works for you, but you have like really big dreams for your music, and the cool thing about your dreams with your music is you seem extremely patient with it. Like you don't seem like you're trying to be, you know, the next big thing tomorrow. So I'm just saying, if you are having those bad days and you're having that worry, instead of just being like, oh man, when I was 15 with my backpack and I felt like I was all alone in the world, this I could be back there and I'm not. Don't be that like scared kid anymore. Be this strong man who's got like a really bright fucking future to fantasize about. I say fantasize over reminisce.
No, I think that's an incredibly strong statement. And then you know, reflecting on that compared to another thing that I've realized recently, it's like, you know, all of my relationships former to where I am now were kind of all based off of like pain bonding. Like I looked for a
Trauma
relationship.
bonding.
Yeah, you know, I was like, I
Mhm.
grew up in a broken home. I can't be with someone like I used to cry when I saw this girl I was dating who had a perfect, like I describe it as a perfect family. She just had a mom, dad, and a brother. But like to
Mhm.
me, as one of 8, 7 don't know I exist, and one refuses to talk to me, and a mom I've never met, and a dad who I disagree with. It's, you know, family is not close to me. Like the closest family I have is 30 feet from me right now. You know, the whole world could disappear, and I would be unfortunate I couldn't talk to a few people on my phone, but realistically, my world's 30 feet from me. You know,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I now realize that that's incorrect. Like we all go through crap, but if you're going to correlate to something, correlate to happiness. And so,
Yeah.
and in some respect, I can completely understand like how that would be a better thing. And one thing that really gets me that I think about a lot is like a lot of the music I write is deeply reminiscent of my childhood. And so it's harsh and painful and violent, but to me, like I'm the guy who listens to depressive songs to smile. Like
Mhm.
knowing someone else has been there makes the weight off my back
It's
a third.
comforting.
Yeah, yeah. And
Mhm.
so one thing I've realized though, and the reason why even now, like I used to say by 27, I would release, and like I think about it, and it's like, well, maybe 32, and it's like because it hits me that like, you know, I know there's a shelf life of this, but more so than that, like it to some degree, it hurts to write. You know, like I have to do it incrementally. If I write too much, I'm very introspective with myself. I don't like what I do. Even if I wrote, you know, I've spent, like I said, 14 or 15 years now writing music and really working my hardest. So I understand like music theory and like how Eminem makes a beautiful song. It's 16 syllables per line with 16 bars per verse, and then 4 to 8 bars per chorus and intro and hook. And I could write a song off just science. I just need a topic, and I can write a whole song because it's now math. I've made it simple, and now I'm learning how to freestyle, and you know, listening to Juice World has really helped me with that because he's so unstructured. He just grabbed a mic, got high, and rapped.
He's incredible.
But now he's dead, and so that's like now I used to live vicariously through him and stayed sober by not doing them, and now that he's dead, that's kind of set in stone. But it just fucking sucks. It's like, you know, I you know
I would
that's
also say stop saying there's a shelf life. You're giving yourself, you're ending your career before it even started. You're like, oh, I know there's a shelf life. Stop saying there's a shelf life. Do you ever watch Howard Stern?
oh yeah, no, I know, I
You ever what
understand.
you want? I don't mean for his radio career, but yes, I mean like he just had Foo Fighters on there. He did a great interview with Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters, and none of them are like, yeah, well, we're throwing in the towel. We're too old. We don't even know. They might be able to invent something tomorrow that clicks your brain and you never die. So you don't know what your shelf life on music. People might live to 160 starting tomorrow. So there's no, you're putting your own time limit on a career that hasn't even begun yet. Don't even use words like that. Your career will start when your career starts, when you're ready for it to start and you're ready to like start putting yourself out there and ready to fail and ready to get back up after you fail and ready for that first person to be like, you wrote this? Oh, this is really good. And then you can be that person that people put the music on to relate to. that because they went through something. But you got to stop saying there's a shelf life. There's no shelf life. There's no shelf life for real talent. Real talent evolves.
Yeah, no, I thought of that I thought of it that way for so long, just based on, you know, the sphere of things. But I mean, Lil Wayne and Eminem, like, they haven't had a shelf life, and so I understand that. I was just basing it off of, you know, past things I've expected. But no, you're right. And there's definitely a lot of room for adapting. You know, I never thought a year ago I would have a podcast.
Look at you now. You know what I'm saying?
And 6 months later, you know what I mean? Me and my, you know, coworker here, Topher, and I met Spencer through the fucking chat room. And now he's, you know, been a co-host and a part of my life for countless hours, you know? So it's, you know, it is cool. And I guess, yeah, there's a lot of room. You know, I've spent so long around structure, and, you know, like, I spent the beginning of my life learning how to be an adult before I should have. And then I spent my formative years as a late teenager learning how to defend myself and learn psychology so I could not be lied to. And then, you know, I fast forward to 24, and it's like, okay, I've got 10 years of learning how to protect myself. And now I live in a peaceful town. What the fuck? You know what I mean? And so it's
tough for no reason now.
Yeah, literally. I'm in a place where I don't need to use deception to be safe and move in and out of society like it's a chess game. I can just, like, I went ice fishing, and I was a quarter of a mile from anyone, and we were using handheld augers to try to dig a hole, and they were dull blades. And 20 minutes into it, we're both trying to drill a hole through 10 inches of ice and can't do it. Two people walked a quarter of a mile and let us use $800 things just to help us out. Here, go ahead and use them, I'll wait, you know. And I was like, that's not how Boston was. You know what I mean? If I left my keys in my car, you took it before I even got out of the gas station. You know what I mean? So it's really hard to live in a place where it's kind and considerate for the most part. When I grew up and learned my principles in a place where protecting myself was just smart. Like, the people
who waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, like, people who got robbed in Boston because they left their door unlocked, I called those people idiots. I didn't have sympathy. Like, you didn't fucking leave your door open. Are you stupid? Like, someone stole the tires off my car once. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, you didn't talk to people on the sidewalk. You looked down. Looking at someone was cause for a fight on some porches. You don't even look on a porch. A stoop was cause for a fight. They will run 30 feet and hit you. Like, you eyes down, do your job. And I was doing construction and shit, but it was just principles and morals that it's hard to shake. You know, I still lock my car everywhere I go. If I think I didn't lock my car, I'll turn around, walk out of the store, and re-click my clicker. Like, and they don't even do that here.
You can do, like, those little, if you stay in this town for a long time, and you can let those guards down over time. No one's saying that tomorrow might be the fluke day that somebody's in your town and you're like, I'm not going to lock my car today. And then somebody's like, hey, this guy, he's passing through, and he opens your car. You know what I mean? But you'll learn in little ways, I think, to let your guard down and get more comfortable. But changing and evolving is not an overnight thing. Everybody, you take little baby steps, one step to, you know, becoming a better person every day. And like you said, you didn't know you were going to have a podcast. And now look, you know what I mean? You're creating and getting stuff out there. That's probably been fun and helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it's such a purist way to look at it. And that, you know, I totally agree with you, because I'm the schizophrenic who believes the good, the bad, and the gray area all at the same time. And I'll argue all three. So I completely agree with you. But the thing I think about with, like, my daughter, and when me and my girl disagree about parenting styles, is like, my practical approach to be pragmatic is, what is the I told you so?
Yeah.
Because that's how I was raised. Like, if you fucked up, well, it's like, did you have a plan and you fucked up, or did you have no plan and you fucked up? Because one of those has sympathy. You know, and so to me, it's like, well, what's the I told you so? And it's like, I would love to let my guard down. I would love to get 30% more peacefulness out of every day, and maybe even forget part of my former self, or maybe not forget, but store
peace, make peace with it.
Give it a nap. I don't got to be on alert, you know, and have a radar on my ears. And that might be nice, but then I think, well, what's the I told you so? Like, you know, not to jump to the controversy, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's paranoia. And my friend said that as I was a teenager, because I was the guy who I knew every law, and I learned the loopholes around the laws so I could be above the law as opposed to be under it and be ignorant. Like, I had friends who went to jail, and, you know, it was like, well, just be smarter. Like, I want to deal drugs too. I'm just not going to get caught. Like, and so I went out of the bounds. Like, they were driving around with drugs. I was dropping it in a key box, banging it in the ground next to a rock, and then texting someone latitude and longitude. go fucking pick it up. Like, we never met, we never saw each other, and I trusted the money was there. Sometimes I got robbed, but that $35 or $80 was worth not knowing you again. Deuces.
Yeah.
And so it's like, as an honest businessman, I say honest businessman, I was just trying to sell weed, when I was a teenager. I wasn't trying to harm anybody. I would, or sell anything that would kill anyone. So it was not to say that morally made it better, but I don't know.
A little, it does a little, but everything's a moral, whatever a moral compass is whatever a moral compass is. You know what I mean?
My girl just brought the dab rig in here.
I saw it and it had a mushroom tip.
He was sucking on a mushroom head. What the hell, man?
That looks cool.
Yeah.
That's a good lady. She's taking care of
you. Yeah. But no, I don't know. Life's a trip, man. Like one of my 5 categories I put on this goddamn wheel right here was life. You know what I mean? I have life and psychedelics. And I just tried to think of some practical goddamn things that at any point I could talk about, I don't know. Like when I think about what I was raised, what was taught to me when I was raised in school and with my dad and with my family, like they didn't teach me the things that I would teach someone who, like, especially like my daughter, like I think I'm going to teach her a certain way that would be super beneficial, but everything I've learned is not the majority. And so I often contemplate if I teach her what I, quote unquote woke, I hate the way that's phrased, but to be well described, if I teach her the logic way and the adult way, understand science, but accept that there's spirit and energy, and there's a lot of fucking question marks. Like, don't put everything in stone like I did. I need it in stone and it's irritating. So just try to be a little loosey-goosey, but show up to class, be on time, and be respectful. Like there's a fine line between fucking off and being perfect. Like you can't be perfect and you can't be a full fuck up, but like you got to be both. I think maybe.
I kind of think so too. Yeah. You can't teeter too far onto one end. You can't be too goody-goody and then never get to experience any of the fun of life, the reason we're here, because your head's in a book. But you can't be, taking it to a place where you could kill yourself or kill someone else because of, having too much fun. Find the balance. Yeah.
So I just, quite simply, I worry about teaching her something that's not the majority, especially like right now. At least my mindset was more the majority in Boston. Like there's a lot more on top of the ball, had to hustle survivors in Boston than there are in my little 4,000 person town. And so as far as survivability goes, I mean, I bet it's a single percentage amount of African Americans and non-white people in the school. And like, I'm not correlating that to being a bad thing. I'm just saying like that we're super country mountains, hillbilly ass bearded Santas at the bar. And there's nothing wrong with that. But demographically, like I grew up with diversity, and to be racist would have been to not have friends,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So
I mean, you're talking to me. I look white. My dad is black and my mom is white. So it's like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's like it's so hard to, and they didn't know that how, you don't know how a kid's going to come out looking, so it's like you'd kind of do, but like I'm just this really white looking woman with like a face that's identical to my dad. I actually, so weird, because I use my brother's room to record because it's quieter. This is my family.
Oh, okay. That's crazy. I would have never guessed that you were African American. And that, to some degree, that must be irritating because I'm sure someone's argued with you, right?
It's less about arguing. I mean, well, when I was younger, people would be like, "Oh, you're not black," and then you have to be like, "Yes, I am." Blah 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 blah. And then as I got older, when people would be like, "You're not black," I would be like, "Okay."
Yeah, I don't gotta prove it to you.
I don't have to prove anything to you. I don't have to do anything. It's just the worst part about it for me has been, and it's not the worst part about it for me. The negative, the thing that's hurt me, or it has been part of my growth path, is hanging out with groups of white people who are not aware of my race and not aware of my background, and then them saying something really, really racist, which you're 3 white dudes. I'm sure you've been in a couple rooms where some people are saying some pretty racist things. And so imagine hearing the things those people saying. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't tolerate that, I don't tolerate that, but then you're sitting in a group of people who have said like, I don't tolerate that, I don't tolerate that, and then you hear somebody else say something racial and nobody else stands up for it, and then I have to be like, well, that was some racist shit, and like it guts you sometimes because you think somebody is a cool person or a good person, and then you hear them say something racist and it really sucks.
No, I completely concur. And I dealt with a lot of that. You know, one of my best friends who gave me a home when I didn't have one at like one of the first places in the first 12 months of being what I call homeless at, 14, 15. He was black, and Jesus Christ, like I used to have him come out to New Hampshire and hang out with me just so we could get away from the city, and like going to the grocery store. It was like I had the world's hottest chick with me, except they were looking at her because she was a whore. You know what I mean? Like that's what it kind of was. It was like every eye hit it. It was a primal thing. You couldn't stop. He was a 230-pound black man with dreads. And like I had him as a guest on this podcast. And like I probably wouldn't even be alive without him. Like I thought Boston was willy-nilly like New Hampshire. And he taught me like, bro, like you don't go down that street. And if you go somewhere without me, you just might not come home.
Right.
And so
it's tough.
So I respect him to the utmost, but to see not even the majority, everyone just whoa, like because he looks scary. He looks like someone who's going to take your purse from you and punch you in the face. And I don't mean
he looks scary because we live in a country, which I know you're like, we're blessed to live in this country. Some people are very blessed to live in this country, and some people's experience is not so blessed, and they still choose to love this country anyway. And he looks scary because the country that we live in has portrayed people who look like him and his family to be scary people, when he's not the person that, and that's not to say, oh, just because someone's black, they can't commit a crime, and just because someone's white, they can't commit a crime. No, he gets the quote unquote, I look scary because society pushes the narrative that people that look like him are scary, not because of anything else.
No, and you're completely
right.
What
I mean?
That started with Nixon and Mexicans. Like he was like, Mexicans smoke weed and Mexicans are the enemy. Rah, 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 rah. Weed is bad for you. And like, dude, it
started with slavery is where it started. Nixon is just a product of a country that, loves to put people in boxes, when it's really, it's a class war, not a race war.
Yeah. No,
you should put it that way, like putting people in boxes, because that's been my whole thing. And anybody who was watching this and might get offended, listen to all of what I say before you start running off the mouth. I cannot stand the BLM movement, not because I'm racist, but because one, I am one of the least racist people you will ever meet. In fact, it actually physically makes me uncomfortable, pains me to have to refer to somebody as a color just so somebody else will know who the hell I'm talking about. Especially like up here in Vermont, there's not a whole lot of, there aren't a whole lot of African Americans for multiple reasons. It's really cold. A lot of it's physiological. Their respiratory system, their noses in particular, aren't built for this shit. They're built for more humid, more warmer climates. But that being neither here nor there, there's a lot of people up here who are kind of racist, mainly out of ignorance, I think, or because they think it's cool or whatever. But in any case, I digress. It physically pains me, physically makes me uncomfortable to deal with that, because one, first and foremost, all lives matter. If you put people in a box like that, you are, two, being racist as hell. Because what you're doing is saying these people are different than everybody else.
Oh my God, I feel like I'm going to explode. I feel like, can I just, because I'm just going to touch on a couple things just so we can have, I'm trying to have like honest, like, let's be open and honest, but you're really making me super angry, and I'm trying to get that in check. Okay, I'm going to start, I know, but okay, let's just start really quick. You hate the BLM movement is what you're saying.
I don't hate the BLM movement.
But that's what you said. You said I hate the BLM.
Okay, then let me rephrase that. I hate what it has become, because there's so many people who just hopped on the bandwagon.
Okay.
That's what
So
it is for
stop
me
right
more than
there.
anything else.
Stop right
It has
there.
become a
Stop right
bandwagon.
there.
I understand
Stop
the
right
reason
there.
behind it. And I
Stop right
understand
there.
why it
I'm
happened.
going to say this.
Okay.
People jumping on the bandwagon, the BLM movement won't work. The BLM movement is simply saying that Black life is not valued the same in this country as white life, as it's proven because a Black man was killed who was literally like murdered for the whole world to see. So there's and the BLM movement started before George Floyd was murdered. Okay, if white people don't jump on the bandwagon and stand with BLM, then there can be no BLM, or it's going to be a hell of a lot harder for this movement to work. And to say Black lives, all lives matter, yes, no one's saying all lives don't matter, but Black lives have not mattered in this country. So if you say all lives matter, yeah, nobody's arguing that. People are just saying, hey, also Black people, your life matters. And we haven't shown you that. That's why saying all lives matter is really, really detrimental. It's extremely detrimental because no one's saying all lives don't matter. No one's saying white lives don't matter, or like white lives don't matter. People are saying that Black people are in danger in this country and their lives matter. That's why you have to say Black lives matter. If you are meeting Black lives matter as a white man in this country with all lives matter, then bye. Nobody has, like, I'm trying to have an open and honest dialogue with you because I feel like you probably haven't had it with someone. It is, if you say I'm the least racist person, I'm telling you, as a half Black woman, saying all lives matter as a white man in this country is a racist motherfucking thing to say.
No, and I understand both sides. Like,
I'm curious as to how exactly that makes
no, and
racist.
no, it's not a matter of like whether or not you're racist. It's just a matter of like how
it's a
society.
racist thing to say.
No,
I know.
It
said it's a racist thing to say.
No, I know. I can tell you. Like it's a manner of answering. Like, so it's due to timelines. Okay, like everything she said about like how Africans are treated, or Blacks, or whatever vernacular you use.
Black, you can say Black, and wait, I know, Richard, I want you to finish the sentence. I just want to say this really quick too. It's okay. It's okay for you to refer. You're like, I hate that I have to refer to people by their color for people to know what I'm talking about. It's okay. Black people are Black. White people are white. It's okay to say this person is white. It's okay to say this person is Black. That you don't have to feel bad about saying Black people know they're Black, and white people hopefully know they're white, and we look different, and it's okay to be different. We don't all have to I don't see color. Like, it's okay to see color. That's what makes people beautiful, is their color. White color, Black color, whatever your color, that's what makes people unique in you. You don't have to feel bad when you're like, I had to say that person was Black. They are Black.
I agree with you in the sense that it's just the whole PC thing has my has my ass on a tizzy. To be honest, every time I choose between it, I pick either Black or African based on one, society, and B, like, as I grew up, it was my Black friend, you know what I mean, Wayne from Boston, and then at a certain age it was like, I can't say that, and it was a school thing. Like, at the end of my high school career, saying Black was almost offensive, at least in my school. So it's a weird cultural norm that I adhered to. But to go back to what Topher said, it has to do with, like, I think a lot of it, the demographic. Like, the demographic out here, the news you get in Vermont is not the news you got in Boston, and the news I got in New Hampshire is not the news I got in either of these. And I'm sure it's the same with that everywhere. I lived in Texas, but I didn't watch the news. I was too busy doing things that came from Mexico. But so the problem is that you can't answer a protest with a protest. Like, even my own grandmother shares, heavily an opinion with, what you think, Topher, because it's like, well, I don't understand this. But the problem is that the media is showing the extremists of it, the people who are causing damage and harm. And so the only name, if you look at 30 seconds of the news footage, is that this is a bad thing. But when you if you put it on paper and you take your emotions and your griefs and you put them aside and you just look at it, 1 + 1 is 2, to answer a protest with a protest, or to throw fire at a fire, or piss on water. You just don't get anywhere. So like, you either have to concede, and the government's talked about that. Like, what if we did reparations? Like, I don't think anyone thinks $50 or $1 million is going to make them feel better about their great grandparents being killed, or their friends, or anything that happened. So,
or anyone they know today.
yeah, so it's hard to put a number on that. So it's like, well, we can't issue checks. How are we gonna make them apologize? And they pulled back Columbus Day because he was a murderer, and so like they tried to make good on the Indians there, because the Indians got fucked in the whole deal. And so now we're trying to do the same thing with black. But I sure as fuck don't know the answer. But I do know that the point of the movement is that if there's an African American, or sorry, if there's a black woman in a hospital who's pregnant and having a baby, she's like, I forget the statistic, and all statistics are kind of skewed, but like, she's like 200% more likely to not get medical aid at the speed that someone of a white gender would,
Right.
race would. And like, that's a fact. Like, no bullshit. Black woman having a baby might be less important than a white dude with a broken leg. And like that's not okay. Like, that's that we're talking about a one life who's going to possibly die without aid, giving another life, and a dude who can get his leg sewed up in an hour. He just needs to calm the fuck down. I know he's in pain, but it's like, dude, there's massive detriment to Africans in this country, and it's
not Africans. I would say that it's massive debt to Black people, because there's Haitians in this country, there's Jamaican people in this country, there's Black people from England in this country. You know what I mean? Like, it's I think we can say Black people in this country are unfairly treated, and that's why the Black Lives Matter movement isn't trying to do anything harmful. They're trying to protect their fathers, their brothers, their cousins, their friends. My father, my cousins, my brothers, my friends. That's what Black Lives Matter is doing. It is not coming for white people. It's calling on white people. Help us. You saw what happened in the street. Help us. They're killing our fathers.
And I understand this, believe me, and let me clarify.
Clarify a few things, because some of the things you're saying, then you're like, well, I don't mean it like that. So just let me know how you mean it, because I want to hear you.
To clarify, what I don't like about it is what it has become and been sensationalized as, and the extremist. By who?
What are the extremists doing?
Has gone on.
What are the extremists doing?
Any of the riots, any of the
Where are there riots? Because I went to Black Lives Matter
now, but this is all
there weren't. I was at every Black Lives Matter march I could go to in the summer. The police were the people that were instigating. I went to dozens of Black Lives Matter. There were no riots. I'm telling you, as someone who did it and who is the movement.
I'm not saying
there's no riots, my man. There's no riots.
Again, what I'm saying is this is what has come across.
Okay, and I'm telling you, as someone that's in it, that there are no riots.
Okay, what I'm getting at is certain things have become very polluted, very convoluted. There are extremists in everything.
What have Black people done that are extreme?
You want to
well, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about Black Lives Matter. We're talking about Black Lives Matter, right? And you said there's extremists. What have the extremists of Black lives done? What have they done?
Okay.
I'm just asking for an example of your
you're not going to actually let me.
I want to listen. I want to hear what
because I'm sorry I said anything at all, because this has gotten.
I want to talk to you.
Now people are going to think I'm racist. No, I'm
nobody's. I'm trying to have an open dialogue with you.
And you said you were getting angry, and now
because you offended me. I'm Black.
Everybody
you offended
thinks
me.
I'm a racist, and I'm trying to clarify it, and you won't let me.
I'm asking for an example. You said that Black Lives Matter are extremists. What extreme? I'm asking for an extreme example.
Again, you're taking one piece of what I said when this is what I said, and this is the whole thing. Okay? Now, if you'll stop for just a minute, this is this. There are extremists in everything. What comes across the news, what comes across this, what comes across this, what comes across this. It's all convoluted and polluted, which is what I was trying to say. And now, if you'll let me finish, me being a juggalo. No, it's not the same thing, but we've been labeled as fucking gang members. We've been labeled as pieces of shit. We've been labeled as trash, murderers, thieves, etc. Why? Because we listen to the same fucking type of music, because we like to wear clothes representing the same type of fucking music that we listen to. That's it. And because of some extremists who aren't smart enough to take the lyrics of these songs and say, oh, it's entertaining. It's horrorcore. That's what it's supposed to be. It's entertaining. It's a lot of times it's a catharsis, which is, we'll have that conversation later, I'm sure. It lets people who don't have any outlet go, oh, look at this. This is awesome because I can relate to this. I can take my aggression out. I can just kind of sing with this and love this because it's
I think we're touching on
scale, but you're talking about the same type of thing.
No, I think we're touching on something else right now.
Juggalo thing. Okay, I don't know anything about the Juggalos. I know I liked an Insane Clown Posse song once. It was very fun. I don't know anything about Juggalos. I don't personally associate that with anybody of extremism because I'm not educated on it.
No,
so I would never say anything negative about it because I simply can't. I can't tell you if I know what a Juggalo is other than the association with Insane Clown Posse and myself liking that one song. That's all I can say. I'm just saying, as somebody who's meeting you for the first time today and who considers myself a big part of the BLM movement in a way that is out of fear that my father will get pulled over and be murdered because of the color of his skin, or my cousin will, or my uncle will, or my brother. As somebody who's a part of the movement, it is hard for me to hear. It's hard for me to hear the sentence "all lives matter." It is hard for me to hear that because of my experience, and maybe in your experience, I'm trying to be empathetic with you. Maybe in your experience, you're like truly at your core don't want to see anyone hurt, and you're like, I don't understand. I don't understand why Black Lives Matter has to exist because all lives matter and I care about all people, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just saying.
That's exactly it.
And I'm hearing you, but
and I apologize if I've offended you for anything I've said there, because it was not meant in that. No offense was meant by any means at all.
I appreciate that.
And I'm just saying, since we're using the colors, I have plenty of Black friends. Right. I always have.
And that's okay. They can be Black.
I don't see the color difference, though. I just see them as people.
But why? You should see the color difference because that's who they are. That's a part of the same way you have facial hair and you're like, this is my facial hair and I'm proud of it and I like it.
They get a better tan than I do.
People yeah, but they are.
All right, let's just not talk over
they're people. They're people, but they're just like white people are white people, Black people are Black people. Black people probably want to take pride in their Blackness, and white people should take pride in whatever their culture is. Everybody, you don't have to not see color. That's not what anyone's asking. People are just asking to see what BLM, I think, is asking people to see is that Black lives are treated differently in the country. So saying all lives matter is a harmful phrase. I'm saying when I hear it, it's hurtful and harmful to me because right now Black lives are being lifted. And maybe whatever news you've seen has shown BLM as an extremist group. I'm telling you, it's not. If you do a little bit of research, it's not an extremist group.
I did not say it's an extremist group.
No, Topher, let me take it for a second. But no, I understand. Like, I think the problem here is just what's conveyed. Like, you know what I mean? Because I spent way too much time on Reddit, and during like August when there was a lot of things going down, a lot of protests, and on top of that, COVID, people were losing their minds and being told to stay home, and there was travesties going on everywhere. And that at midsummer was if my timeline is correct, a lot of the George Floyd thing happened right. Was it right after COVID or was it right before COVID?
It was during COVID at the end, like the last Monday in May.
Okay. I thought I was thinking July, but yeah. So it we had so many things compound here. And I think with a grain of salt, what I'm getting from what you're saying, Topher, is like the overall anger of everything. It doesn't show good on the news. And like, I understand the extremist point of view. And I also understand, Rocky's point of view, because the point of it is nothing but a good thing. Like, all they're trying to do is ask for equality and get it. And that's a good thing, and so there's too many miscommunications, I think, during this. And
I don't understand the inequality in the first place and why it happened to begin with. But now, that being said, I understand where you're coming from, because I guess I had never actually talked to anybody about it who was involved in it. And that makes completely sense. I have a completely different perspective now, just what you said about worrying about something happening to your dad. And believe me, I understand that completely firsthand, because as Ricky knows, my day job, I could die in a moment's notice because somebody's being stupid, not because of racism, but just because somebody's a fucking idiot and doesn't know how to drive and isn't paying any attention, because I'm traffic control. I play in traffic. I literally stand in the road with no protection around me. And I know my girlfriend, I know it bothers her, but she knows I love my job. She knows I make decent money. So she supports me, but I know it kills her every day when I leave, because she knows damn well I might not come home today. So,
no, I think that's something we can relate on.
Anything to do with racism, but I understand the whole not knowing, because that's a dangerous thing. And that's kind of where I was going. It wasn't just like, oh, well, this shouldn't, like, all lives matter. I'm talking like, I'm not really active because there's nothing going on right now because of COVID, but the Orange Lives Matter movement, that's another thing that's been going on, because flaggers have been dying left and right, more and more of us all the time. Just senseless stupidity. Shit that doesn't make any sense, shit that shouldn't happen in the first place. And I guess that's where I'm coming from, because of my mindset. I understand it happens, and it is a real part of our culture, unfortunately, as a country right now. And it has been for hundreds of years. But it doesn't make any goddamn sense to me. It hasn't from the beginning, and it never will. I don't understand the
well,
reason.
don't say it never will, because you were the guy who started this podcast off saying you like to have intelligent conversations with people, and you can't talk to people if they're dumb. So I'm telling you, as an intelligent woman, I'm here. If you've never had someone within the BLM movement who will talk to you about what this is and try to tell you this is not an extremist group. This is a group that is working towards protecting Black people in this country. That's all. Okay. And that's it. And I'm here, and that's it. It's not an extremist group. There's no extremist acts. And that's so I'm here to talk to you about that.
Extremist group. I just said,
right. Okay, I'm sorry, but you did say they do extreme acts.
Catholics.
No, I know. Let's not go.
Let's not get into Catholic. But I'm just saying, I'm here. I'm here as someone. You don't have to never understand it. If you're wanting to have an open dialogue off camera. It's not that
I don't understand the BLM movement. It's that I don't understand why the racism
because of slavery. It exists because of slavery, and they made Black people 3/5.
I'm not talking about history books. I'm talking about
that's where it passed on from,
and why people were treated as less than in the first place.
Well, it's all good. Why questions are just speculative. It sucks, but saying why is, it's just the why doesn't matter. Fixing it is what's important.
Most definitely, and I'm all for that all day, every day. I'm pissed that it exists in the first place, and I hate it.
Well, I think a lot of people are pissed that
I think
that it has to exist.
Yes, exactly. And that's my point.
But it does have to exist.
It has to exist.
But it does have to.
And
no, I think we got to work. We got to work together. You know what I mean? Like we got two severely different opinions, and that we've been able to get through a conversation without, throwing anything worse than a fireball, verbally. So I think that's something. I think in a conversation like this on a sidewalk would have been walked away from a lot faster than, a setting where we were kind of, we kind of prefaced this super, a long-standing, sensitive topic with a little bit of, fun jargon and personal stuff on, on all behalf. So I think we've got two different opinions, and we've got, a lot of recourse, and no one has answers, but I think both of you can at least agree that, that it's a problem. And I think it's even more of a problem that there can be this much disagreement. You know what I mean? Like for as a, just, we're just four different people, but if four different people can disagree this much, I can't even imagine how much, the point of views that on both sides of yours go even further. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just think we got to work together. And I could say I don't want a lot of stuff, and I wish a lot of stuff didn't exist, but I unfortunately accept the world's a pretty shitty place. But no,
but psilocybin can change that.
Yes, I think mushrooms can change that. And I think we can all have a lighthearted, you know what I mean? Goodbye. And, be after, I just think that we don't need to end on a contentious note. You know what I mean? Like, so.
And I mean it, Topher. If you ever want to talk, I will have a non-judgmental off-camera conversation with you and answer any questions that you might have about BLM or what the purpose of it is and why it has to exist. There's a laundry list of reasons why it has to exist, and we can have a GameStop Zoom date where I can tell you all about them, and we can come from a place of understanding, because it's very scary for Black people out here.
No, and I get that, and I do. And again, I apologize for any miscommunication.
I appreciate that. I'm glad, like he said, that we were
sometimes I don't come across right, and I get that. I'm really abrasive a lot. Anybody that Ricky will tell you, I'm a blunt force trauma to the head kind of guy, and sometimes it just comes across wrong. And again, I apologize for that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I never meant to come across like that. I do understand the need for it. I do understand the reason for it.
We can talk if you want to. If you want to ever ask me any questions, you can ask me a question, and I'll try to make you understand whatever your frustrations are.
No, for sure.
My frustration is with the human race. It had nothing to do with BLM. Actually,
that we can agree with.
And that's what my thing comes down to. Is again, I don't understand why people have the mindset so that things happen that cause us to need something like this in the first place, because it's absolutely retarded. Which comes back to my main point. People are people. There is no reason that, and yes, we're all different. I'm not trying to take that away by any means, but people are people. We all bleed. Why? We all breathe, we all bleed, we all eat, we all piss, we all shit. Who cares? Why do we have to treat people like less than because their skin's darker, or because they're standing out in the middle of the road, or because they speak a different language? Or
no, I agree.
Like
we all
There's
gotta
absolutely no reason for that. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of.
No, we can.
I
agree with you, and we got to work together. No, I thank you so much for coming on, Rocky.
Thank you for having me.
I'm not gonna lie, I've done half a year of shows, and I've gotten into what I thought was some deep topics, but that was but even prior to anything to do with BLM, like I personally, it was a good talk, and I even think I might have some philosophical changes that I might work on, and think about it, and it's definitely I appreciate you going out of your way to say that the shelf life was a bad idea. I mean, I've been saying that for the better part of a decade, and no one has ever told me I'm wrong. And quite frankly, I would have argued with them,
Yeah.
So thank you for that insight. And let's wrap up here. If you want to plug your show, and if everybody wants to say goodbye and say something they thought was cool about this episode, we can end on a cool note. So thank you, Rocky, for coming on, and thank you for having an insightful talk with me about some of the things going on with me and then the boys here, and everyone say goodnight.
I appreciated the Scooby-Doo talk, but I got to be honest, I liked the getting to the nitty-gritty better.
I'm happy to hear it.
My podcast is Wild Nights with Rocky Powell. That's me. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Wild Nights with Rocky. And I have entertainers from all over the country come on and tell a story about a wild night from their life. Usually comedians, radio hosts, drag queens, anybody. They'll come on and share, and it's been really fun.
Damn, that's really cool. Awesome. And I will reach out after this, and I'll get all your links for all your socials, and they'll all be right below the show for anyone who wants to go through. So if Spencer and Topher, you want to say goodnight to the listeners, and we'll cap the show.
Night, everybody.
All righty.